The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
All right, guys, we are back with another episode of Shootin'. Now, before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this, just to make sure that my I can still count. We're at episode 9 today, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, number 9. And as always, this is DDJ, and as always, I am joined by my two guys, the Premier Joey K and the Hot One Jay Minacho. And before we get into the show, the Hot One down there looks like he's really having a hard time containing himself right now. So being the generous, benevolent guys that Joey K and I are, we're going to give the Hot One, yes, hard hand emoji, whatever you want to call it. We're going to give our boy Jay here a couple of minutes here to release, and we'll just leave it at that. So take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not watch Impact Wrestling, I'm tired of telling you to watch it, but we are finally, and you know what? It's not rabbit season. It's not duck season. It's motherfucking moose season. We have a new Impact Heavyweight Champion. That is the man himself, the wrestling god, Moose. Biggest heel heat of all time. Taking the belt right off of Mr. Alexander with his family in the ring, covered in.
Did he freeze?
This man is going so hard, he blew out his internet.
I blew it out, and it's just the internet understanding how big this moment was, how much heel heat came from that move, raising the belt on a down Josh Alexander while his kid and his wife looks him in the eye. Guys, that's how you call your shot. I don't think I've seen anybody call their shot as good as that. Congrats to the new champion.
I got 2 words for you. I got 2 words for you. Babe Ruth.
It's not what I meant.
Hey, he called his shot.
I'm just going to say this. If Blue Chew made a pill that was 6'5", 299 pounds, born in Seabrook, Maryland, Jovan would devour that thing as fast as humanly possible. That's how much he's on the train for Moose right now as your new Impact champion. He has not shut up.
I blew it up.
He has not shut up since Bound for Glory, blowing up my phone, sound asleep in
blowing up
Casa del Premier all night long. Just like Blue Chew had said, if you need a hand all night long, this is where we go. Moose came out and gave Jovan a hand, if you know what I'm talking about.
It's times like this that I'm so glad that I'm a heavy sleeper because I did not hear my phone go off at all, because otherwise I would have been pissed. And on that note, before Jovan's head gets too bigger than his the screen here, let's get on with the show. I just gotta have a reason to play the beep every once in a while. So,
what is wrong with you, dude?
I start piling on the investment money.
do not be surprised if the next time you see our intro video played that we make a little tweak to Jovan's little voice clip, because during the playing of this, I got an idea of what I'm going to change it to. So you just stay tuned for episode 10, because we're going to change the intro up a little bit. So.
Ooh, I think Joey needs to be the one where he went off on his heel rant.
There's gonna be plenty more of those audio.
Oh, we got
boys. Don't worry.
Because episode 8, which you can go listen to on our YouTube page as well as wherever you get your podcast. you can see it was the return of the revenge of the heel. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So
And-
gentlemen,
and
we
just a
already know how
preview.
what's
Just
up?
a preview. He ain't going anywhere, especially tonight. So strap your asses in
man.
wherever you're sitting, folks. It's time to go real fast, real hot.
Okay, so we've already pretty much established how Jay's doing tonight. Joey, how are you doing tonight?
Your A1 since day one, the Pacific Island Playboy himself, the premier Joey K, the premier heel of the true trios champions, the Shootin Shit Boys, here live and in person. As live as you're going to get, baby. It's live for me right now, so that's what we're doing. We're coming in hot and hard tonight, and just like I said earlier, we all loaded up on that Blue Chew, especially Jovan, and we're coming in hard and heavy, baby. Let's rock it out.
All righty then. So let's get right to it here. So the for those of you who watched Rampage on this past Friday night, we saw the announcement of the long-awaited announcement of who was going to be competing in the inaugural tournament to crown the inaugural TBS Women's Champion, and I believe the finals of that is going to be held on, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like January 6th of next year, which is the same day that Dynamite premieres on TBS. So the field has been announced. We had one match already with Ruby Soho advancing over Penelope Ford to move on to, I believe she's going up against Chris Statlander now in the next round. But guys, of all the women that are left, who do you want to win the TBS Championship tournament? And because Jovan's flying high right now, let's keep the high going. Jay, why don't you lead us off with this one?
Ladies and gentlemen, your inaugural Hose champion, because let's be honest, that's what the belt says, not TBS, but Hose. Your first Hose champion, it's set up for Jade Cargill. She is going to be that bitch. She will be that hoe. Jade Cargill, first champion of the TBS Women's title.
You know what?
Wow.
I'm gonna double down on that. That's who I want to win as well too. She's been on a tear. She has yet to lose. She's getting better. She's not where she's got a ways to go, but she's headed in the right direction. And definitely having one smart Mark Sterling Esquire in her corner has really helped her out, and it's gonna, I think, pay dividends in this tournament. So I'm doubling down with the hot one and going with Jade. Joey K, what do you got?
It is so difficult to disagree with you, gentlemen, especially looking at the list of women in this tournament specifically. I do really like the handful of women who got the first round bye based on ranking. I think as far as the tournament aspect, that is really, really great booking. I enjoy it. My mind says I'll agree and say it's Jade, but realistically, I think we're gonna probably see Ruby win. I only say this because it's the equivalent of a TV title. It's the TNT title for women, of course. It's the TBS title, and I think they're gonna put it on a face. AEW has done that in the past, where they really enjoy having a face champion with a nice long reign. We saw it with Riho and in the inaugural tournament for the AEW Women's title. And I really like Ruby in that spot, especially too, because you can slow cook another feud up with the AEW Women's Champion Britt Baker, because I don't see that title going anywhere either.
Nope.
And it adds more tension and more fuel. And Ruby's going to be able to defend that title and really, really work her way up against some top level women, especially through the tournament right now and in the future.
So
I like that pick though, because
I do
Ruby
too.
never got a chance in her old company.
Nope.
Right.
But I feel like they really want to make Jade something big, and I think she gets that honor, man. I feel like she gets the rub. I would love to see Ruby. Don't get me wrong. It's the same reason why I didn't pick, Thunder Rosa, because I think that's an eventual Britt Baker challenger. But yeah, man, I'd be happy with either or.
So a couple of things coming out of this little conversation here, one matchup that I would really like to see in the second round, and that's if someone gets past wins their first round match. I love the way the brackets are set up because we've got some potentially really good second round matches. In the possible second round match that I'm most excited for is who Jovan was just talking about with Thunder Rosa possibly going up against Jamie Hayter if she gets by Anna Jay. I think that's going to be a sleeper like match for best match of the tournament. And then also too, it was announced this past weekend on AEW programming that Britt Baker is going to be defending the AEW Women's World Championship against the Hot Ones, WCW Women Crush Wednesday, Tay Conti. So, Jay, are you going to be a little bit conflicted during that match?
Oh.
Not at all, my friend. 100% know who I'm going for. 100% down with the chew it and do it on that match.
Yeah, he's cheering for Moose. He's cheering for Moose in that match as well.
You thought the Moose reaction was bad. If Tay pulls off the miracle, God help us, I would need a whole show.
Well, maybe we'll do a special. We'll do a special if Tay wins, but that should be really good. I love the fact that they're giving Tay a chance to shine. So,
dude, the promos alone have been great already. With Tay going at Britt Baker's figurine, not having an ass while Tay's does. That was greatness.
Yeah. So,
agreed.
So speaking of women here, a few weeks ago we discussed about the PWI 500 and talked about the top 10 and gave our takes on it and stuff. And go back, into the Shootin Sh archives to check out that episode again on our YouTube page or wherever you get your podcast from and stuff. But the women's PWI Women's 150 is out, and the top 10 was announced here. So, and I know number one was one Bianca Belair, but do you guys agree with the top 10? And what are your takes on it? Joey, why don't you lead us off?
All right. So hitting on the top 10, first and foremost, all the women who made this list, phenomenal. I think it's a really, really great list. It's a strong list. Just focusing on the top 10. I would probably swap out a few things here. But I will preface by saying it's probably a little bit difficult because personally I don't follow too much Stardom, and it looks like we have 3 women on the Stardom roster. Now I've seen clips on YouTube, I've seen highlights of matches, and don't get me wrong, these women are phenomenal. However, for us primarily US based fans, I think there's a couple glaring omissions, and I'm going to give you one right off the top who should be in the top 10, and I will give you specifics on it. Bayley, even though she is out injured right now, completely understandable. Mm-hmm. However, her heel turn and her work as a heel has been second to none in women's wrestling, period, end of discussion. She has been phenomenal. She has worked every program like an absolute professional that they've asked her to. She has just developed an entirely new persona with this hero character, because Bayley's character from NXT to the main roster was this underdog, fun-loving, let's hug everybody. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie. My daughter and I have I'm a hugger shirts that we would match with. I'm legit on that. I don't care. I'll rock it to this day. But her being a heel is phenomenal. I think it's a crime that she was left off this list. Also, because you boys know I'm pro Ring of Honor, the lack and utter disrespect to a lot of the women from Ring of Honor's women division is absolutely jarring to me. I think it's sad. You have some real amazing talent. For instance, Roxy, I think she was 28th. That girl is money, and she's going to be money for the next 15 years if she stays healthy and wants to be. You have a wild women's division from, Angelina Love, Mandy. You have Quinn McKay, who does primarily a backstage interviewer type role, but then gets in the ring and has great matches. You have so many great talents in Ring of Honor. It's a shame that they didn't make the list. But for me, Bianca's not really number one. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to put it out there. I don't think so. Based on the year, I would actually put Britt Baker as number one. Because as much praise as I gave to Bayley as being an amazing heel because her character did a full 180, Britt Baker has done nothing but impress me every single week she is on AEW television. From her ring work to her promos to everything. There's a reason she's the AEW champ. I believe she'll be the AEW champion for a long run. I think she would be at number one. And Deonna Purrazzo. I mean, how amazing has she been? She deserves to be. I know she's what?
She's third.
I think third. I would put her at 2. I'd put her right behind Britt. On a good day, maybe flip-flopper, she could be number 1 too. So that would be it. I mean, I'd probably make a few other changes here and there, but that's probably my biggest takeaway from that is I think Britt at 4 is a crime. I think she's number 1 overall. She should have been number 1 this year.
Yeah, I mean, actually, in one of my chats on Facebook, when the top 10 was announced, there was kind of a little debate that got started between two the people that Joey just mentioned, and that being Deonna Purrazzo, who was ranked number 3, and Britt Baker, who came in at 4. You know, like who was better? And I was of the mindset that I think Deonna deserves to be rated higher than Britt, just because she literally like dominated, because the evaluation period of this period of time for the 150, it started from October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021. And really, when you look at that time frame, really, I want to say Deonna Purrazzo, I believe she may have been, with the exception of, I know, a brief period, I think, when she dropped it and then won it back from Su Yung, I believe. She was the champion. Like, she had the championship. Britt, like, started coming into her own, but she really didn't hit it. She didn't win the women's championship till I believe it was Double or Nothing this year, which is in May. So, well, yeah, she's in a bigger company. You know, some people will say Deonna Purrazzo, big fish in a little pond or whatever. But, I mean, you think about what Deonna did. Not only did she dominate that women's division, holding that Knockouts championship for arguably the entire evaluation period, she also won overall Impact Wrestler of the Year. Like, she beat out everybody. And I think AEW did the same thing, and I don't think Britt like won at that period of time. You know, if you do it this year, yeah, Britt will easily probably win Women's Wrestler of the Year. She may win overall, but I mean, to me, at this evaluation period, this is going on. Like I said, I don't have an issue with who's in the top 10. I mean, obviously, much like, you know, Joe mentioned, and I'm sure Jay as well, you know, we're not as familiar with like Stardom and that and stuff. So we don't, but I'm assuming like these women from Stardom that are on here, you know, deserve to be on here. And any of you that listen to this show, first off, thank you so much. If you ever want to reach out to us, you can see our socials on the screen here. So give us like some stuff to watch, or let us know why, you know, why you feel that these women deserve to be on here. You know, educate us, because, you know, as much as we love, you know, shooting, you know, on these different topics and stuff, we love just as much hearing from you guys, and anything we can learn from you guys, we definitely appreciate it. But yeah, no real issues with the list. Like I said, I honestly think, if anything, I would have put Deonna at 1, Britt at 2, maybe Bianca at 3, because Bianca had a great year during this time frame, had a great like run. But I mean, just to me, I think Deonna and Britt their runs were that much better. Jay, what do you got?
I'm doubling down with your rankings. Number 1 has to be Deonna Purrazzo. She cleared out her division. She went to Mexico, became a double champion with the Reinas del Reina belt.
Mm-hmm.
She's done it all in Impact. She was Impact's Knockout of the Year, which is the women's division. She was Impact's Wrestler of the Year, the whole company.
Yep.
She carried Impact Wrestling while their main champion was not an Impact employee.
Yep.
Think about that. Their title was around Kenny Omega's waist. So the face of that company became Deonna Purrazzo, and she held it down.
Yep.
That's alone is why she's number one.
Fair point.
Two,
Hey, real quick. And I was waiting for you to say this, Jovan, because I thought that's where you were going to go with it. Which I like I said, I could flip flop either way. But DDJ said this, and I'm going to throw it out there. You guys talk about it's a title, holding a title. It's not all about the title. The build up, and go back to Double or Nothing. You tell me how hot that crowd was for Britt Baker to win the title.
No denying.
That's based on the 3-month build up prior.
I was there.
I mean, tell me she wasn't the best woman in AEW, let alone US wrestling, because of the build. She was a straight up heel, absolute heel, trashing the crowd, doing the whole deal. And the crowd still wanted her to win so bad. That, to me, that's a star. That's a superstar right there.
Britt Baker, and she's a solid number 2 for what she was, just due to the review period, what she actually had, how much she actually wrestled, the amount of talent. Yes, she's a solid 2. She's a bona fide 2. No question about Britt Baker being top 2. My issue is like I said, that 3-month build-up, she wasn't really fighting anybody. It was a lot of scrubs on Dark to pad her record, to make it look good for when she goes up against Super Shida, who also is an omission from the top 10. Hikaru Shida should have been top 10.
Agreed.
Now, going on to that, Britt Baker caught that Stone Cold Steve Austin just lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Her promos were fire. It was relating to everybody. They didn't care what they were saying because they got that Stone Cold Steve Austin 316 mentality again with the DMD. She was very smart in how she marketed it. She was very smart with how she cut it. That's why she caught on like that. Now, she's done some great work as champion. And once again, number 2 is where she belongs, in my opinion. Just apples to apples with her and Deonna. But there's no taking anything away from Britt. Britt was really good this year.
Yeah, if Britt was ranked higher than Deonna, I wouldn't have a big issue with it. And I mean, when this list comes out, around this time next year, we very well could be talking about Britt possibly coming out number 1, and I think all of us here would unanimously support it and stuff.
I think that's where we're going to be, though.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, rapid fire. 1 and 2, I think we called it 1 and 2 for the PWI top 150, or if they expand it, however many women's division. Who's your 1 and 2? Are we all in agreement taking Britt and Deonna and really just seeing how the year plays out?
I would say if we're starting right now, like basically from when the evaluation period starts, so if we're talking the beginning of October of this year to, right now, I definitely think Britt's 1. Like, I will definitely say Britt's 1, no questions asked. I obviously, we talk about Bound for Glory just happening. Unfortunately, Deonna Purrazzo dropped the Knockouts Championship to Mickie James and James.
Horrible decision.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked by it. I mean, I'm anxious to see what how it plays out. The upcoming weeks of Impact and stuff. But I mean, right now, if you're asking me who my top 2 for the next PWI 150 right now, I would definitely say Britt 1, Deonna 2, and everybody else a distant third. But I mean, I could, and that's so. I mean, if
those
Britt
2
stays
ladies
on,
are women's wrestling right now, and for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I mean, whoever comes out with this, TBS championship could definitely make a case, depending on the run. And
not TBS title, DDJ. You got to give it with your soul, baby. Hit it with the whoo title.
Oh man. All right.
Well, thank you to the one woman who actually listened to our show, who will no longer be listening to our show. We appreciated your support through the first 8 episodes. If you made it that far, episode 9, happy trails.
I'm just joking, but look at the belt. It does say hose.
Hey, real quick, one side note too.
What?
12 months ago, do you think we would ever be talking about the two of the top women in the world, like, who should be 1, who should be 2 for next year, and they're not even WWE contracted wrestlers.
No.
And aside from that, how much of a waste, because Britt showed up in WWE, if anybody remembers, in 2016 and was squashed by Nia Jax when Nia was doing the whole, squash match every week on Raw to build some super monster.
Yep.
And Tiana was in NXT and just wasted away.
Yep.
And here we are. They're contracted to two other companies, in my opinion, major player companies, and champions, and dominating women's wrestling right now.
Yeah,
if I'm absolute waste by WWE.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Deonna Purrazzo originally supposed to be part of that 4-way women's match at All In, and she pulled out because she signed with WWE?
I think I recall that. I think that was
supposed
something
to be in the match.
Yeah.
And then she was forced to pull out due to the contract obligations.
Yeah.
Which one of the women replaced her? Who was it?
Chelsea Green.
Was it Chelsea Green?
Yeah, she's talked about it on her podcast. They're friends.
Ironically enough, Chelsea then signs with WWE and gets wasted in WWE as well too.
Yeah.
Man.
Alrighty then. So we are going to move on here. Normally we save this little segment for towards the end of the show, but we're going to bring it out a little early here. We're going to do a little underrated, overrated.
Ooh.
Underrated, overrated. All right, and our topic this week on underrated and overrated, finishing maneuvers. There's all these finishing maneuvers out here. You've got super kicks, you've got moonsaults, you've got 450s, you've got 630s, you've got Canadian destroyers and Spanish flies and rock bottoms and people's elbows and cobras and worms. Oh my. Guys, there's moves out there that make sense. There's moves out there that don't make sense. So let's start out with our underrated. What is your one underrated finishing maneuver? Jay, why don't you lead us off?
Underrated finishing maneuver. You know what? Just because it's a variation of a move that's hit so much, it's kind of lost a little bit of its luster. But to me, when it's done the right way and it's crisp, it's a great way to finish the match. Give me the Adam Cole babies finisher, the Panama Sunrise, or any variation of the Code Red, Canadian Destroyer. All of them lumped together. To me, it is overused a little bit. But when you hit a good one, kind of like what they did with in Saudi Arabia with Doudrop and Zelina, it's a good finish.
Right. Joey, what do you got? Oh, boy.
Going to put on my inner hot one glasses here.
Oh,
as much as I might agree, because let's be real. The Canadian Destroyer in a whole is a silly move. It really is, because the setup, you have to have an opponent who's going to be hunched over, Ferris Bueller style, licking his palms so he can get out of high school that day, waiting for somebody to jump in and then do the complete flip to get the guy over. So, but it kind of is underrated. However, mine is something much, much better and bigger and more devastating. My underrated finishing move is the Gonzo Bomb. And for any of you fans who don't know what the Gonzo Bomb is, it is a half, how should I describe this? It is a half power bomb, half pile driver. So basically the setup is this. You set up in the power bomb position. You bring your opponent full up over the shoulder. However, instead of head between the legs, it's over the shoulder. Lift them up and then bring them down, but not in a power bomb fashion. Bring them straight down to their head and sit out into a pile driver. It looks like one of the most devastating maneuvers, and honestly, made popular in All Japan in the 90s. Highlights, go check out any Misawa match where he hits it. It looks terrifying. And current day, popularized by one of my personal favorites, Brody King, leader of Violence Unlimited. He hits that Gonzo Bomb. It looks absolutely destructive and devastating. And I understand. Here's the real reason why it's underrated, because a lot of pile driver maneuvers are outlawed by a specific American company who seems to be very large that will remain nameless at the moment. But it is absolutely underrated. It is a devastating looking finishing maneuver. It can get anybody who pulls that move over in a heartbeat, because anytime I see it live, the crowd always, huge pop, huge concern. It brings a lot of that realism back to professional wrestling that does get lost in some of your current day finishing moves. So that's my underrated pick for this week.
All right, so for mine, I always think when I think of underrated, I always think of something that should get a lot of love, but it's not. That's to me is what the word underrated means. And my underrated pick is a move that we don't see often, but when we do, it's a thing of beauty to watch. And my underrated maneuver goes, it belongs to a gentleman who just had a banger of a match, I believe, on Rampage against one Andrade El Idolo. I'm going with when back in the WWE days when he was known as Neville, called it the Red Arrow, but now it's known as the Black Arrow. If you have never had a chance to see that maneuver in action, first off, you need to be watching every Wednesday night or Friday night or whenever Dynamite and Rampage are on, when Pac is on, because you need to see this move just to believe it. I mean, it's basically a corkscrew shooting star press, and he makes it look easy. He pulls it off and just looks so effortless, but it's such a thing of beauty. So yeah, so for my underrated, I'm going with the Bastard Pac's Black Arrow.
That's a great choice.
Great choice. Underrated because I don't know a lot of guys who can pull it off consistently.
I've never seen anyone else do it but him.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking here in my head. I mean, I have a handful of guys that may be able to pull it off. Top of the head, Matt Sydal, possibly.
Ricochet.
Ricochet was the first name that came to mind.
Will Ospreay. I mean, but I'm talking three guys that I can pull out of my head right now that are top level talent.
But even then, the base move of a shooting star press is no laughing matter. That's a hard move to pull out.
Agreed. I mean, that's a great pick. I mean, very underrated move.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so we talked about some moves that we think are underrated. Let's talk about moves that are overrated. And this, I think, is going to spark some really interesting conversation. Let's just go in the same order. We'll go around the horn here. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see Jay is like covering his face. And I think so. He looks like he has a doozy. So, Jay, what do you got?
I'm trying not to have a nervous breakdown because as much as I love this move, and I honestly, the mark in me loves this move, but it is so stupid. And for it to have been a finishing move, and as much as we all put this damn move over, it should have never been as over as it was.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
I know where he's going to.
I do. Hold on. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
He had to put his glasses on again.
The people's elbow.
There you go.
For me, I mean, it was one of the dumbest finishing moves. It's got to the point to where it pissed me off playing WWE video games that took up a whole finishing icon because it never finished the match.
Oh man! All right, so as soon as you start talking, I think Joey and I we're pretty much had the same. We're sharing the same thoughts there. Joey K, what do you got for overrated finishing maneuver?
Man, that's a hard one to top because. You know, and I think I speak for all of us. Everybody here loves The Rock. I mean, we all grew up probably fans of The Rock, and to see him pull it out and do the people's out, and some of them are the greatest ones. The one on Davey Boy that he pulled on SmackDown that one night where he slid across the ring in his stretch shoes. I mean, he's throwing things in there and sprinkling in, but. If we're talking just
the Undertaker after the Undertaker sits up and he
that was another really good one.
Just classic little ad libs in there, which are great. But if we're talking about just a move, it's a simple, silly elbow drop that doesn't really. I mean, to be honest with you, the better finisher he has is the rock bottom. Let's be clear. But My pick is based off of something we're going to talk about here shortly too. Popularized by a wrestler who I really particularly don't care to see too much of anymore. And I'm going to go with it and just say it. I think the spear is the most overrated finisher right now.
Wow.
I think it's run its course, ladies and gentlemen. It really has. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see especially Goldberg do it because I don't really need to see Goldberg wrestle anymore. I think we said everything we need to say on that. But the spear, whether it's Goldberg, whether it's Edge, whether it's Roman Reigns, I don't particularly care. I'm not a fan. I don't want to see it. It's just a very, very overused. And really, this is a close one for me too, because I was really leaning towards the super kick as well too. The super kick, when Shawn Michaels had the super kick as his finisher, was money. And then it gets bastardized down through the years. And now it's just a good spot setup, thigh slapping good time. And I just don't buy into it anymore. So to me, that's another overrated. Really,
okay. Calm down, Cornette. Calm down, Cornette.
Spear, don't get me started here.
Go eat a double cheeseburger.
I was in the drive-thru line at the Dairy Queen. God damn it, I want a double cheeseburger. No,
Double
seriously.
cheeseburger.
No, seriously, I think the spear is just overrated because there's so much hype. Oh, he hit his spear. Well, big deal. I don't care. I don't think it should finish a match. I think it's lost its luster just like the super kick has. And it's overdone. It's a good segue spot. But to use it as a finisher, I think that time's come and gone. I don't think it's a good finisher. It's a decent segue, but nothing more.
Real quick before DDJ jumps on, to make my point, the spear and the not the spear, and a lot of times the spear is set up not as your finisher in the games unless you're like Edge or Roman and all them. But the super kick is set up as a signature move now. Not a lot of wrestlers have that as their finisher. So
true, and one of the reasons I kind of left that off is I thought about it, but yeah, it's become a signature for a lot of guys now, especially AEW. I mean, you got a lot of guys who hit that super kick that it's just part of their repertoire, but it's coming every match.
But it's so brutal when they hit it. Oof. Slap the leg.
Hey, look, all in favor here of slapping the leg. Say aye. All right. DDJ just slapped his goddamn leg. Okay. I will take that as an aye. The ayes have it. It is. I hate the fact that there are certain higher ups. Don't slap the thigh. Dude, I will come back there and I will slap your thigh, Vince McMahon, just for the shits of it. I don't care. Give me that big muscly quad. I will slap that bitch till it tears again at the Royal Rumble. I don't care. Let's go.
All right. Javon looks like he needs a.
He's crying. He's crying now.
He needs a breather and stuff. So, but you might want to take a minute here because I think I got one that's probably going to set you off again, Jay.
Oh boy.
So, you brought up the people's elbow. Yeah, that's really over. But to me, I've actually got a tie for what I think is the most overrated.
Oh.
So you're getting two for the price of one here.
Oh,
because these moves are about as overrated as it gets because these were actual legit finishers.
2 for 1, no promo code needed, baby. Hit me, DDJ. Give me what you got.
All right, 2 for 1, no promo code needed, courtesy of your 5-star trivia machine here.
Oh, great plug, baby.
Yeah, which you can get on our Shootin' Sh merch store on Teespring. Link will be in the episode description. Please go out and buy a shirt. We still have our pink shirts that we're selling through the end of the month here to support Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and a portion of the proceeds from the sales of that shirt will go to breast cancer company or organization there. But like I said, my 2 for 1 blue light 5-star special for this, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Cobra and the Worm.
Oh.
2 of the
I'm slow clapping it
moves ever. You have one move where a guy literally puts a sock puppet, and I'm not talking Mr. Mick Foley's Mr. Socko, because that actually is more legit than the stinking Cobra and the stinking Worm. Yeah, it got a pop. Yeah, the kids loved it. Yeah, they sold a lot of Cobra sock puppets, but it's just literally you go, and then you just peck a guy in the chest almost like an ostrich, and that's supposed to finish somebody off. And then you've got, I'm not gonna do it because I'm still recovering from my knee surgery. I'm about 1 month done, almost 1 month away from being done with my therapy. I don't need to go to my therapist in the morning and be like, yeah, I just retore my ACL trying to do the WORM. So, yes, I mean, literally, again, yeah, for the time he was over, but really, he just goes, ooh, 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 and then he just does like a karate chop, and that's a finisher. I think I've said enough there. So, yeah, your 2-for-1 5-star special this week is the Worm and the Cobra.
No love for the animals from DDJ.
And I'm an animal lover. All righty. So we are moving on. So this past week, this past Thursday, WWE held their annual Crown Jewel special from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and much to the delight and surprise, I think, of the majority, us, as well as, WWE fans and just wrestling fans out there, it was actually a pretty decent show from beginning to end. So, gentlemen, was Crown Jewel the best WWE pay-per-view of the year so far? I'm going to start off with this one with a resounding yes. I mean, to kick off the show with a 30-minute Hell in a Cell match, and we're going to be talking about this here shortly after we're done with this. So a little bit of a tease for you folks out there in YouTube land or podcast land. Started out with that. We ended with a very good match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, with an ending that leads you to believe that there's more to this story, that this story is not done, much to the delight of all of us, because I'm going to go on record and say that this is the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar storyline is probably the best thing going on right now. And yeah, we had, also had some really good matches. You had, the 3-way women's match where Bianca Belair stole the show. And after she was done stealing the show, Becky Lynch stole the pin. You also had, an actual, I'm not going to lie, Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley was actually better than the SummerSlam match, but that's not really saying too much and stuff. But I mean, just overall, this was actually a really good show. It's easily the best show that they've put on in Saudi Arabia. And I mean, they've actually had some really good shows this year, few and far between. But yeah, my answer for this is yes, this was the best WWE pay-per-view of the year so far. Joey K, what do you got?
The premier Joey K is going to ask the world one question, and that question is, how do you pick up a turd from the clean end? Of course it was the best WWE pay-per-view this year, because they've done nothing but drop piles of shit on you every month on Peacock. Thank God it's free on Xfinity and included, because I wouldn't pay for that garbage if a gun was put to my head and you made me jump through glass plates like the Squid Game, okay? So that's number one. Number two, it's easy to rank it because finally, all the WWE marks and fans can go, they listen to the fans. Well, guess what, Junior? They haven't been listening to the fans since 1987. So it doesn't really matter. And it's going to be back to business as usual come next month, okay? So that's that. Now, were there some great matches? Of course. The Hell in a Cell match, and we're going to shoot on this in a little bit, was probably a highlight match for the year. Without a doubt. Edge and Seth Rollins. Edge at his age, amazing. More on that later. Seth Rollins, underrated player in the WWE.
Absolutely.
I mean, the guy can work with anyone. He can draw as a face. He can draw as a heel. He has the it factor that everybody talks about. I love Seth Rollins. The fans get what they want. Xavier Woods wins the King of the Ring.
And that was actually a really good match too.
It was a great match, actually. I had no complaints in the match, and the finish was exactly what fans wanted. Also, another thing, sad that we have to fly all these talent and superstars, all this ring crew and workers, 18 hours just to get to a part of the world where people will cheer for Goldberg. What the hell? I mean, at this point, we're going to have to get Elon Musk on the phone, rocket up to Mars, because we're going to have to find an entire new species in the known universe to cheer for Goldberg again.
Wait.
We've run out of options.
Wait, why would we go straight to Mars when we can go straight to the moon?
Because there's nobody on the goddamn moon that cares about Goldberg either. So we have to go to Mars, DDJ. That's why. So there's that. So, and on one more note, and I'm probably going to get some flack and shit for this, but it is what it is. I understand cultural differences. I understand beliefs and different parts of the world. I do not want to watch a women's match. Now, this is not degrading, and I'm not going to say this for any specific type of ring gear, attire, outfits, but I do not want to watch three women have a triple threat match wearing wetsuits like they're going to go jump in the ocean. And wearing the t-shirt gimmick and stuff. I get cultural differences. I do. I understand it. I appreciate that. I respect it. But let's not have that on the show then, because it comes across to me personally as a bit of a distraction. You have basically like bootleg looking shirts that you pick up, after you leave a WWE live show, down on the corner of the exit gate for like $10 from some dude with a cardboard box, just throwing them in your car window. And to me, it's a distraction, and it took away a little bit from the match. And I really hate that. To me, I've always been this ring attire, ring gear is a big thing to me. And that's one of my hot selling points. One of the reasons I love WrestleMania, and we haven't done this show during Mania season, and I'm sure it's going to come up in a future episode when we get to Mania season, is the debuting of wrestlers pulling out their new freshest gear, custom made for WrestleMania. Yep. Anytime you have somebody with new gear for a Mania show, and this harkens back to the era of Ric Flair getting $10,000, $15,000 custom robes made for Starrcade, for various shows and different things like that pay-per-view events and WCW. Yep. Right, but it made it more of a spectacle. Same thing with Mania. You always get guys in their new gear, the women in their new gear. And a big takeaway to this too, and this is why I'm saying this, Bianca makes her own gear. And I think she's fantastic at what she does. Number one, she's amazing in the ring. She's great on the mic. She does make her own ring gear. That's part of her. So to see Bianca tone down to wearing a bootleg knockoff shirt that they got in the airport, outside the airport of JFK before they had to fly overseas, it to me is a bit insulting, but I get it culturally. I can understand it, but it's a little bit of a for me. It's not a great look for me. And aside from that, Big E needs to stay the champion. I love Roman and Brock continuing the story. I think there's more there, especially having Brock as just we all know he's a part-timer. Let's be clear. There's no way in hell Brock's not coming in week after week after week after week, and we just saw that on SmackDown last week where he's suspended indefinitely. Okay, wink, wink. It's hunting season. I mean, does anybody know that? I'm out here on the East Coast. I got employees of mine that are calling out of work because it's hunting season. So we know Brock's up there hunting right now. So his indefinite suspension is definitely for some personal reasons. But I like where the story's going to go, and you can continue the feud. You can continue the story. You can add secondary players, and I think we're going to see more of that come up. So overall, yes. Was it the best pay-per-view WWE's put on all year? It was. I agree with that. However, you're putting a hat on a turd. It's still just a hat on a turd. That's it. A shiny hat, a shiny, nice hat, bought with blood money, but it's still a hat on a turd.
Yeah. So three things before we let Jay talk here. One, actually, I forgot one of them because Joey kept talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. But one thing, actually, you know what? I think I remember all three of these things. One you're talking about the bootleg T-shirts, and the first thing I thought of was that episode of that '70s show where Hyde and Fez get arrested for selling counterfeit Ted Nugent T-shirts, but they got let off because Fez got them misspelled, and they were Tad Nugent.
Ted Nugent.
T-shirts.
I love that. That was a great episode.
That show was a great show, period. And that if we ever do an overrated, underrated on like TV shows, it's don't be surprised if we bring up that '70s show.
I hope that '90s show is good.
I hope so too.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I really hope it does. I really hope it carries the torch.
And the other thing, well, there was one thing, but again, I can't remember what it was. But the other thing was for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, probably saw what Jay was doing. But for those that were listening on Apple Pod, Apple or Spotify or Google or whatever, Jay, I gotta ask you, were you doing the Bianca hair twirl or the Ric Flair helicopter?
It could have been either or, because we were talking about Flair's robe and Bianca's gear. It's all in there.
Oldest ride, longest line, baby.
Hey, speaking of, have you guys, either of you guys watched The Boys on Amazon Prime?
One of my favorite shows. Yes,
I just watched the episode where they were in the hospital and found all those guys they were experimenting on, and especially that one guy that used his to strangle the.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
That was based on Ric Flair. That was based on years of the helicopter and spending more money on spilled drinks.
Oh man, that was something else and stuff and that. So Jay, we've had a little bit of fun at your expense. Give us your take here.
No need to beat a dead horse. Joey K gave us 40 solid minutes on why it was a good show. I'm going to wrap it by saying, yes, it was possibly the best show the WWE's put on all year. It gave us a potential match of the year in that Hell in a Cell match. One thing everybody left out was the camel. I freaking love the camel spot with Riddle.
Yes, yeah.
I died. But yeah, other than that, Joey K did a whole breakdown of the matches and the show. So if you want to rewind back 30, 40 minutes, you can give that a run. But let's go. What's next?
Well, while we give Joey K some time to catch his breath because he took all that time to make his point. He kind of segued or gave us a segue into our next topic, and all three of us kind of alluded to it. That Hell in a Cell match at Crown Jewel was just amazing, and a little bit of a hot take here. One of, if not the best Hell in a Cell matches ever. I'm just going to come out and say it right now and stuff, but we're not going to just focus on that Hell in a Cell match. We're going to focus on Edge and basically his run with the WWE since he came back at the 2020 Royal Rumble. And guys, has Edge's return been one of the best returns in recent memory? Joey K still needs a couple minutes to catch his breath from talking, like 45 minutes or whatever we decided on. And Jay needs a breather because he just spoke about his take on Crown Jewel. So I'm going to start this one off and say, without a shadow of a doubt, a resounding 100% yes. I mean, you go back to the 2020 Royal Rumble. I believe he came out at number 21. The countdown goes on, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Buzzer comes out. And then next thing you hear, you think you know me. And then, Alter Bridge comes on. And the whole place went crazy. I believe it was it Minute Maid in Houston?
Yeah.
Okay. Houston went crazy. I was at my friend's house watching the event, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing because this was a guy who was never supposed to come back. This was not supposed to happen. He was forced to retire almost 9 years prior because of neck issues. And I believe he had it was like a triple neck fusion or something, like some real serious fusion surgery. And just for him to come out and you could just see it on his face. I think he was in shock because if you saw that look in his face when he came out and like it hit him, I mean, that is an image that I don't think any wrestling fan will ever forget. And he actually proceeded. I believe he was one of the final 3 in that Rumble match. It came down to Edge, Roman Reigns, and Drew McIntyre, and then Edge would go on to have a just a very memorable feud with Randy Orton that started when Orton hit the RKO on Edge and sent him back to the hospital and thinking, oh, is he done now for good? But he came back and they had that great last man standing match at WrestleMania 20 in front of nobody. Then they would go on to put on the greatest wrestling match of all time, which I'm not going to say it was the greatest wrestling match of all time, but it was a really damn good match.
Billed as the greatest wrestling match of all time.
And then, unfortunately, during that match, I believe Edge tore his tricep and was out for a few months, but then made his surprise return. Or it was announced, because it wasn't a surprise, but it was announced that he would make his return at this year's Royal Rumble, where he would go in at number 1. He'd be the first one in and the last one out, and just and one of the all-time great Royal Rumble runs in recent memory, and that is something we will be talking about if we ever talk about Royal Rumble runs. I think you're going to have to bring Edge in this year's Rumble, but just for what he did at WrestleMania, in the triple threat match with Roman Reigns and the former Daniel Bryan, he would go on to have just an unbelievable, run with Seth Rollins, concluding one of the greatest trilogy of wrestling matches I think any of us have seen. And Edge looks like he basically, after the night he retired after WrestleMania 27, he sat in a DeLorean and went, about 10 years into the future and basically just stepped out, because to me, Edge has not aged. Edge looks phenomenal and has been cutting some killer promos. I mean, he had the Brood entrance at SummerSlam. It just, I mean, again, everybody talks about CM Punk coming back after 7 years, and looking, pretty decent. But I mean, to me, and might be a little bit of a hot take, I think Edge's return and Edge's run, like his comeback story, whatever you want to call it, I would say that's probably been way better than what we've seen out of Punk. And so, yes, resounding yes, Edge's return has been one of the best returns in recent memory. I'll actually even take it a step further and say one of the best returns of all time. All right, I'm done. Joey K, you've had plenty of time to catch your breath and recoup after that long-winded your take on Crown Jewel. What do you got?
Well, slap me with a helicopter and call me shocked that DDJ puts Edge's return well over CM Punk's. First of all, Old Man Logan returning. Let me preface at the beginning here. In just a few short days, Adam Copeland will be turning 48 years old. His birth date is October 30th, in case anybody is wondering. So as this episode is live during this week, he will be turning 48. His return, I will agree and say probably one of, if not the most memorable return. Number one, considering what he's coming back from. Number two, the rate of work that he's putting in at his age, unreal. There's a handful of moments in professional wrestling that catch me off guard and I get lost in the moment and I get emotional. Edge's return at the Royal Rumble in 2020 was one of those moments. The music hits, the absolute crowd goes wild, just absolutely wild for him. And the emotion on his face in that one cutaway scene where he looks around and you see the emotion and the tears well up. Wow. I get emotional talking about it because it's one of my personal favorite moments of a return ever. So that's one. However, fast forward a little bit, and Edge on his great return run was completely cock-blocked by COVID-19 because what should have been one of the most epic last man standing matches fell super flat for me in an empty NXT arena. Was it a good match? Yes. Was it a solid match? Yes. Was it a show-stealing match? Not in my opinion. No, and that's one of the arguments I had for WrestleMania during COVID with no fans. It's the same thing argument I have for Drew McIntyre is he didn't get the pop that it deserved. He didn't get the crowd reaction because there was no crowd. And due to the world circumstances beyond anyone's control, that's what we got. Again, another issue with COVID during this time was the SummerSlam match. Because if I recall correctly, he didn't tear his tricep during the actual match. They went back and redid a segment and refilmed it for the pre-taped SummerSlam that we got that year. And that's where he tore his tricep. And that's when he was injured. So to me, that puts a damper on it. Again, however, the feud with Orton was money. I mean, Orton's going to go down in history as one of the greatest of all time. So Edge and Orton working together, awesome. I loved Edge's build up with Roman Reigns and the former Daniel Bryan for Mania. That was amazing. And I love the feud that we had with Seth Rollins. It took me back to the Attitude Era, specifically when Seth gets into their home. The little takeaways, and this is why I love Edge. The little takeaways when he uses the shoot names for FTR on a promo in WWE. Not a lot of people can get away with doing that. Let's be clear. Edge is upper echelon. Edge, Cena, that's the level of guys who can get away saying things like that and kind of like leaving it in there, a little wink to the crowd. But having Seth invade their home, making it such a personal feud, that's where Edge thrives. That's where old man Logan thrives. I love that. That old Canadian Wolverine coming out. He's got a little more gray in his beard, gray in his hair's getting a little thinner. Let's be real. We're going heading on the Shawn Michaels train a little bit there. But I will agree. All that said, I'll agree. This is probably the greatest in-ring return I've seen anybody do, and it's even more pronounced for me because of his age. I don't think a 47, almost 48-year-old man should be moving and having the type of matches that he's having. And I, like personally, one of my match of the year candidates is going to be this Hell in a Cell from Crown Jewel. And it takes two to tango. And as many great things I can say about Seth Rollins and how many years Seth Rollins still has in the tank, and he will continue to have great matches. Edge is on borrowed time, and I think we can all agree to that. Father Time's undefeated. Everybody hits the wall. The wall's undefeated. No one gets past it. But for what Edge is doing right now, he's giving Father Time a run for his money at this age. So I'll agree. Probably the best return I've seen in history, but don't ever, and I do mean ever, besmirch Chicago's own CM Punk. All right, DDJ, don't ever come at me that way. You're looking at the man who purchased the very last CM Punk ringer in my specific size left out, edited out. But damn it, I got the last one here, baby. In my size bracket. You're a prick, DJ. Anyway, no, I love CM Punk, and like I said, hey, I've said this on previous episodes. That I think there's a very specific build for what CM Punk is doing in AEW, and I like it. I am all for it. I'm about it, and I want to see how it continues to play out, because if I'm correct in what I think it is, to me, that could change the aspect of whose return was the greatest return.
Ladies and gentlemen, because Joey K took way too much time, again, we're going to have to continue this episode.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Jay, go ahead.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, just like DDJ said, I'll keep it short and sweet and simple to the point to you guys. When I look at the greatest returns of all time, there's only two people who really come up into mind. One, of course, is Edge, for all of the reasons that my two co-hosts up here have given you. They basically walked through his whole return and everything he's done since then, and then we even got some CM Punk in there. Side note, CM Punk is not the second or other greatest return of all time, in my opinion. I think that's going to go down to Shawn Michaels, 2002.
Ooh. I like that. That's a great pick.
The difference between the two, Shawn left, and you always had a feeling that Shawn could come back. And when you saw Shawn when he came back, you're like, okay, he has to still be able to go. It hasn't been too long. When Edge left, it's the same neck injury, the same neck issues that took out Stone Cold Steve Austin. So as a fan, that guts you because you know we've never seen Austin again. Edge left as champion. So as a fan, that guts you because you know when this happens, we're not seeing him again.
Yep.
So to get the music and for him to come out and look as sharp as he did during the Royal Rumble and everything else that you guys stated, it has to be Edge. Right now, Edge is looking like the timeless wonder. He's honestly, I think he's in the best run of his career, and I would be all for Edge getting another title run, a la his brother Christian, who came back, main evented a couple of pay-per-views for a couple of different companies, was actually a champion. I think they need to give Edge his ending. He needs a title.
All right. So we've had a lot of conversations over these past 5 topics, but I think we saved the best one for last. And I think this is something that's really, when you really sit down and think about it, this is something that's going to kind of be on a bit of a more worldwide scale. And so a little bit of a setup to this next topic is that the G1 tournament just concluded, and I believe for the third time, the winner of the tournament was Kazuchika Okada. Unfortunately, it was he won under some extenuating, auspicious, whatever you want to call it, circumstances, because Kota Ibushi went for, I believe, was it a Phoenix Splash? And
it looked like a regular ass moonsault that he just didn't land the right way.
Yeah.
Boy, people haven't been having luck with moonsaults lately. I mean, Kota, Lance Archer, thank God he's okay. But yeah, so basically Ibushi missed a move and he couldn't continue the match. Now, whether it's story or whether it's legit, that's still to come and stuff. But long story short, your winner of the 2021 New Japan G1 was Kazuchika Okada, and he's going to be, as of right now, he's slated to main event yet again another Wrestle Kingdom. But a lot of people don't seem to be up in arms about this like they do a certain tribal chief back in the day when he was main eventing WrestleMania after WrestleMania and basically being shoved down the throats of all the WWE fans out there. So gentlemen, I ask you this. Why doesn't Okada get the same hate that Roman Reigns does? And a little bit, I guess you could say, for example, our American fans may be jaded. You know what? Joey K, I think you kind of came up with this, or you rewarded the question here. So why don't you lead us off on this one?
No. I'm going to defer to the hot one on this one. He's our resident New Japan expert. I hold a distant second to him as much as I do love New Japan. So, hot one, you tell me what you think on this one.
That was so beautiful. First off, I'm going to start off by saying justice for Jeff Cobb.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, he just needed a tie. Okada didn't have to beat him. He just had to tie to have the most points ever. Jeff Cobb is a beast. Hopefully he keeps getting this monstrous push. Now, there's a big difference in the way we watch wrestling and the Japanese fans watch wrestling. To us, we feel like we control the show. We have to be the ones who make these decisions. We want our favorites to go over. We want who we say is the man to go over. In Japan, they let the story tell who is actually going over. They let the story dictate, where your heat, where your faces come from. And yes, they do have input. They do have people that they get behind and they push to the moon. Your LIJ to the moon. Like the prime examples will be LIJ with Naito. Naito is a big fan favorite. Naito is double champion. But all of that just to say, when the crowds in Japan see a veteran, a marquee, a pillar of New Japan competing at a high level, getting the accolades, main eventing their main show, to them, it seems right. Because in their mind, they've seen all the stories. They already know that Kazuchika Okada is the man. He is the pinnacle. That is the bar that everyone is rated against. So when they see him in a main event or going through to the champion again, they understand it. To them, it's kind of a give the champion the old guard. If the champion comes out, he's legit. He's a made man. This is a real bona fide champion. This is someone who could wave our flag. If he loses, it's because Okada is just that damn good. He has always been that damn good. You get more from a rub with Okada losing to you than anybody else in pro wrestling as of right now. The U.S. fans, we try to have that here, but when the fans aren't behind it, the fans don't care about the storytelling. The fans can't see long term, which has always been a U.S. issue. We just feel like, oh, insert name here is pushing insert wrestler here down our throats. Nobody wants Super Cena because let's go Cena. Cena sucks. Nobody wants Roman Reigns because he can't wrestle. Nobody wants Cody Rhodes because we don't believe the American dream concept. Why are we so entitled that we think we could tell these people how to tell their stories? John Cena is that Boy Scout. He is hustle, loyalty, respect. That's why he's always wanted to portray himself as that way. Roman Reigns is the tribal chief right now. That's his storyline. The only reason people like him is because he's not trying to be believe that and the dog who runs the place.
And suffering succotash.
And then with Cody Rhodes, people want Cody Rhodes to go heel so bad, but that's not Cody. You know, we will eventually get it, but that's us trying to write their stories. In New Japan and the Japanese audience in general, they let the stories unfurl. They enjoy it. They don't try to book it. You'll never see Japanese fans doing like we do here and say, well, this is how I would have done it if I could do it all over again. So it's just big time differences between both fandoms. And for me, Okada's the man. He is the man. That is the bar. The bar. Done.
I don't think I can really add anything more to what Jay just said. I mean, yeah, I definitely think it's a case of the different fan bases that you have with, you know, when you're talking American wrestling crowds versus Japanese wrestling crowds. I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons why I prefer a Japanese wrestling crowd, because they're extremely respectful. You know, they applaud the moves. I know, unfortunately, right now, due to COVID and stuff, they're not allowed to yell and scream and stuff, but they've never really been that type of audience. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about, you know, a Japanese wrestling crowd and stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna also say that I feel like, you know, American fans are more easily jaded. We have shorter attention spans. I mean, there's just so much going on because, I mean, yeah, like you said, we want everything now. You know, we're so used to getting everything, you know, right away. I mean, you have, you know, instant coffee. You have, you know, your microwave meals that are ready in 30 seconds. We have our smartphones that we would need a piece of information. We can have it in 5 seconds. We're all about the instant gratification, and that's in a lot of aspects, it's a good thing, but in a lot more aspects, it's really not. And in this case, when it comes to being a wrestling fan, instant gratification is definitely not a good thing, because some of the better stories out there are the ones that take the time to be told. I mean, we're seeing it right now with, you know, in the WWE with Roman Reigns and the story he's been telling since last year's SummerSlam. You know, with, you know, going from the Usos to Brock, you know, with the Paul Heyman factor in, you know, the Edge Seth Rollins trilogy that just wrapped up, another amazing story. You go to AEW, the story that's being told with Hangman Adam Page as he gets ready to challenge for the the AEW World Championship coming up in a couple weeks at Full Gear. I mean, the whole thing with who the Exalted One was. I mean, it's just there's so many stories out there that just if we as a nation had a little bit more patience, I think we'd be a little bit more appreciative of what we see on TV and what we're getting. And maybe if we had that patience and time, maybe the companies that we plunk our money down to go, see, we, turn on every Monday night or Tuesday night or whatever night that pro wrestling's on. If we had a little bit more patience and allowed these companies to tell these stories, I think that would be for the betterment of the industry as a whole, because we would be allowed to get those long-term stories that used to dominate back in the 80s with the WWF and the NWA. And, going to WCW in the 90s and stuff. It's just, we need to be more patient, because I think if we could be a little bit more patient when it comes to our storylines in pro wrestling, I think the product as a whole would be much better.
Dude, let me throw in real quick before Joey K gets in there. My mom saw the accumulation of one of the greatest stories ever told in Texas wrestling history. The story that made Texas wrestling and the reason why the Von Erichs are loved in Texas. She got to be in the freaking Cotton Bowl when Flair dropped the belt here.
She was there when Kerry Von Erich beat Ric Flair?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
So the whole reason the Von Erichs have always been superstars here, but then you finally set it down that this happens. That's it. Superstardom.
Yeah. All right,
go ahead, Joey K. I know you're itching. I see it in your eyes.
Well,
yeah, we got about another 45 minutes or so to go.
Truthfully, okay, our episode is one of the shorter ones we've had so far, so don't even knock me for talking that much. But number two, you guys actually covered pretty much almost all the points I was going to bring up. I think instant gratification is an absolute curse of the current generation of wrestling fans right now. Instant gratification right now is what I see, especially a lot of new AEW fans, a lot of new wrestling fans in general. Oh, Hangman has to win the title. We just talked about this recently. Hangman's back. Hangman has to win the title now. They've been building the storyline. You know what? Let it go. Let it still simmer. There's no reason to put the title on Hangman. Hangman can be a future talent. He doesn't have to wear that title for another 3 or 4 years, to be perfectly honest with you, from what I see and in my point of view, because long-term storytelling is something that's lost.
1 hour later.
Go back to the classics. And DDJ, I might have pull some things out. Look at a title run from Bruno Sammartino. Look at a title run from Bob Backlund.
Look at Hogan's first title run.
Look at Hulk Hogan's first title run.
2 hours later.
Javon, you just said a perfect one. The Ric Flair build to Kerry winning the title. I mean, that is long-term storytelling. That's where this business really made its bones. You would have these guys hold on to titles and build stories. Now, and I'm gonna jump around a little bit here. Number one, first point that I agree with, Jeff Cobb, he deserved better.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
Jeff Cobb should have broken the record. It should have been Cobb versus Ibushi in that match, not Okada, my opinion. But they built a monster in the G1 this year. They finally, Jeff Cobb finally got that push, that monster look. And watch any of his matches in the G1 this year. Not too long, not too short, perfect finishes, perfect power to build him up as this monster heel in New Japan. He got robbed, should have been him. But going back.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Okada's the man. And Javon hit the point exactly, and this is why I deferred to him in the first place. You have to look at how Japanese fans view wrestling and how US fans view wrestling. And the Japanese fans will enjoy the story that is presented. US fans want the instant gratification. I want to see my guy win his match, win the title end the feud, and I want to see it yesterday. That's not the way pro wrestling has been built through history. That's not the way pro wrestling should work now. And to touch on a previous episode, our current day fans spoiled. Yes, they are. We are spoiled with high profile debuts. We are spoiled with new titles. We are spoiled with big title changes and big title matches on free television. We are spoiled in so many ways that just dump more fuel to the fire of instant gratification in the US right now. And it's just, it doesn't work for me growing up on the wrestling I watched growing up. I want to see a challenger build and build and build to get to that point. And you know what? Maybe the challenger doesn't overcome the champion the first time around. And this is Philly talk, one of the greatest movies of all time was Rocky. And most people forget this. The very first Rocky movie, Rocky did not beat Apollo Creed for the title.
Nope.
Apollo won the title. So that was saved off for Rocky 2 when Rocky finally overcame and won the title.
Can I give you a quick another example that kind of follows along that line that might hit a little bit closer to home for people? Look at with Kenny Omega and Okada.
Perfect example.
Yep.
Perfect example. So I was actually going to loop some of that in there. I'm glad you brought that point up. People wanted, U.S. fans, North American fans wanted Kenny. Kenny's the man. Kenny's going to beat Okada. And you had what culminated in some of the greatest series of matches to ever happen in professional wrestling. And Kenny didn't win right away.
Nope.
It was a slow build. And if you go back before that, Kenny building through the juniors, Kenny being the junior champion, Kenny finally going up to the heavyweight and declaring for the heavyweight division, and then building. And you know he's getting there. You know he's going to get to Okada, and he gets there, and he doesn't win.
Yep.
He doesn't get the title. But Kenny's over now. And Kenny's made, and now the fans know what Kenny's capable of, that he can hang with Okada. That's long-term storytelling. That's what's missing, and that's why U.S. fans are jaded. Do I think Okada, and here's the thing, I like the spin that happened. Now, do I believe Ibushi was truly hurt? It was a storyline or not? I think he was really hurt. I don't think, I don't think in the sequence that it happened, I think it was a legitimate injury. Now, I can't tell you, do I really think Ibushi was going to win and go over Okada and the finish was changed on the fly? I don't know. But, you know, and that goes back to this past weekend. Archer landing on his head. Do I think that Eddie was going to go over on Archer? Part of me, yeah, because I'm a big Eddie Kingston fan. But at the same time, it was called on the fly because they have to err on the side of caution. And the same thing with Ibushi. Kota Ibushi is an absolute superstar and a talent. And there's no reason to keep putting him in danger, especially in a traditional Japanese style type of match where these guys go hard. I mean, that's one of the staples of New Japan, staples of all Japan. These guys go real hard, and there's been stories for years and years and years. A lot of American guys, Ric Flair had a great story about how a lot of the American guys used to go, oh, I don't want to go to Japan. I don't want to go to Japan. They're going to beat my ass. These guys go hard and heavy. So in that vein, Okada's legitimate. Okada will always be legitimate. He's been the face of New Japan for a long, long time and will still continue to be one of the premier faces of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I love the turn on the fly, on a side note here, how he wants to bring back the 4th gen IWGP title.
He brought it back.
And he brought it back now. Yeah, so as of we're recording, he brought it back now. Let's get rid of this, you know, New Japan World Heavyweight Champion, whatever they're officially calling it.
Title.
Yeah, it's basically I mean, they might as well make the damn thing spin for you know, my take on it. But I like that Okada brought that back. And whether that was on the fly or if that was on the fly, that's amazing booking. And props to Gato for doing that, because I think that's fantastic. But you also have other stories happening too in New Japan. You have Will Ospreay returning from injury with the original title that he never gave back in New Japan in America. You have Shingo carrying the New Japan heavyweight title, and now you have Okada carrying the IWGP heavyweight title. we have some really fantastic long-term storytelling that's about to happen. So if you're not a fan of New Japan, this is my big plug. Watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, watch New Japan Strong, follow along. It's like less than $10 a month. It comes out to like $9.92
like $9 or something. I believe.
So that's your big plug, Joey K? I thought you had a bigger one.
Oh, I got a bigger plug for you, Jovan. Don't worry. There's stories written about it, and I don't need a helicopter to show it. So I got your plug right here. If you know what I'm talking about.
Wow.
It's all in the hips, baby. I only got one good one, but it doesn't matter. It don't matter at all. The plug's happening.
Don't lie.
So you're damn right. So wow, you popped me on that one, DDJ. That was money. Anyhow, no, seriously, watch New Japan because you're about to see what true long-term storytelling is there. And take note, Tony Khan, I really hope you stick with it. Long-term storytelling on this Hangman Kenny feud that can still be drug out. Don't drop the title. Don't listen to these fickle fans that just want instant gratification to see Hangman be their champion and the Dork Order run out in their little gimp mask and all celebrating. Combined height, they're all 5'2". Okay, throw in their little gimmick nonsense around and cheering and this and that. Unless we get Hangman riding a horse to the ring. Although, hey, one more thing here. I want to see Hangman come out at full gear, straight up full duster, Wyatt Earp style. Like that would be dope as hell. Like do a full Tombstone style entrance. You have Evil Uno and his little dorky mask out there. I'm your Huckleberry. Shut up.
They've done it before, so I mean they could do it again.
They all dress up as Marty McFly from Back to the Future 3.
That's about the equivalent of how cowboy they are. So, yes, that's true.
Clint Eastwood, sir. Clint Eastwood.
Oh, Mr. Eastwood. So anyway, long-term storytelling, instant gratification is the bane of the United States pro wrestling fans right now. We can do better than that. Let's stick with the story, watch where it's going, put a little faith in this, and see where it plays out to.
All right. Well, I figured I said this one would probably draw up the most debate, and you guys did not let me down. And so we covered everything. And yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything else to do, but say, hey, everybody, thanks again for spending your last almost 90 minutes with us. Checking us out either on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. As always, this show is part of the Johners Podcasting Network. Go to wrestlingwithjohners.com and check out all the great shows that are on the Johners Podcasting Network. And as always, you know what? No, this is Jovan's baby. So Jovan, plug the merch, man.
Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be part of the Shooting Club, go into our show notes. Find that Teespring shirt section. You can be a heel with the Premier heel Joey K with the Philadelphia Green. You can be the 5-star predictions and trivia machine like DDJ with the one and only Chicago Blue. Or you could just grab our normal shirt, the Shooting Club shirt, which does come in pink right now for breast cancer awareness. I might do a Puppies 316, have that bad boy go throughout November, and let the sales proceeds, if we do, 10% goes to the breast cancer awareness as well. Who knows? We're crazy. You guys want to see a shirt? Let us know. We'll put it out there. You can get us everywhere. All of our socials are on the screen. DDJ, run through where they can find us all.
You can find us on you can follow me on Facebook at Dennis W. Day Jr. Follow me on Twitter at Dennis W. Day Jr. You know what? I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. I want you all to plug your socials. So Joey K, give out your socials. And since you're the brainchild of the show's Twitter feed, how can our fans how can the shooters follow our show on Twitter?
First and foremost, the Premier Joey K is out here to plug away the number one hottest podcast in podcast wrestling world today. That would be the one and only Shootin' Sh, co-anchored by my good friends DDJ and the hot one Jay Minacho. So if you want to find us, hit us up on Twitter at Shootin' SHT. That is our official Twitter of the show. Send us suggestions. Send us your opinions, your thoughts. You want to call me an asshole? Be my guest. You're not the first. You're definitely not the last. You're not even the first one tonight. Jesus, it's only in the past 2 hours I've probably been called an asshole more times than you're going to call me that on Twitter. But if you want to come at me personally, at Joe Kuhn on Twitter, at Joe Kuhn on Facebook, hit me up. Let me know how we're doing. And yes, please, we are looking to donate for our pink shirts for the month of October. We were a little late on the game as we were still setting up everything for our shirts. So maybe, guys, we can run it a little bit into November to keep it rolling to see who wants to donate. We do want to donate to a great cause. We have a couple potentials on there, possibly at breastcancer.org is one. They do give away. We're looking to give away to places that give a lot of funding to programs and cause as opposed to just admins, and that's what we've been looking into. So that's why we're not 100% clear on who we're donating to just yet. However, we also are looking for possibly some future shirts and some future things. We love charity. We love to give back where we can. So there'll be some ideas there. And as we are all retro wrestling fans, the Hot One has come up with some great retro style t-shirts that look great for us. Yes, the Premier Heel Joey K, my own personal shirt in that Philly green. Love it. Don't love it. I don't care. Go Birds, even though they're just eating just L's left and right. I'm Philly till
I know how
die.
you feel there.
I'm Philly till I die, just like DDJ is Chicago till he dies, baby. We're going to ride that train right into the ground. So hit us up. The 5-star trivia machine, not 4-star. Like, I had to double check. The Chicago flag is 4 stars, but DDJ is 5 stars. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. The trivia machine himself. Hit him up. Support DDJ. Support the show. Support the premiere. And Hot One, we need to get a shirt for you, baby. Not to mention that OG shooting club. If you are one of our true shooters, you're one of the OGs, hit us up. We got black, we got white, we got shirts for the boys, we got shirts for the ladies, we got shirts for everybody. I want a baby onesie in there. Let's get the damn onesies going. It's hoodie season too. Hey, all you guys out there, is your girl stealing your hoodie? Guess what? How about you buy some his and hers? We're gonna pop some hoodies up there too, I think soon. We need to get some hoodies going.
Mugs.
We got coffee mugs. Let's get mouse pads. I want stickers. I want wall hangers. I want a banner. I want a plaque. I want
an iPhone cover.
I want joggers. I want pants. Give me tights. Give me everything.
Dear God, no. Don't give Joey K tights. We don't need to see Joey K in tights.
First of all, it's gray sweatpants season for the lady fans out there. You know what I'm talking about. Give me the gray sweatpants with the Shootin Sh logo down the leg. I'll slap that thigh. Is that my thigh? Maybe it's not. You can't tell. But hit us up on Teespring. The link is in the show
it's
bio.
Definitely his thigh, people.
That's not true. Anyway, hit me up. Hit us up on the Teespring. Buy a shirt. Support a great cause. Breast cancer awareness this month. I know, in personal note, we were kind of chatting in our little group chat there. Let's look at the mental health awareness charity. We're going to do that. And I know personally, October, I know is traditionally known Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but on a side note, on a personal note, October is also Infant Loss Awareness Month. So that's a big one in my household. Since I did lose my daughter 2 years ago. And she is right here, neck tattoo for the world to finally see it. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but nice. She's right here. My little baby girl Hannah's on there. So possibly next year we'll shift gears and maybe do a specialty shirt for that as well too. Hit us up with some suggestions. We'd love to maybe do something, give a little something back to where we can. So that's just a little personal note. But other than that, take us home, boys. Episode 9, feeling good.
Well. Again, Joey K taking forever to just, taking 20 minutes to do something that should only take a minute.
First of all, DDJ, if I go to your wife and you think 20 minutes is just taking forever, I don't know how she's going to react and feel about that, buddy. Okay? So 20 minutes isn't a long time at all, if you know what I'm saying.
Woo!
Hashtag Blue Chew for life.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to chew it and do it with the Shootin Shit boys, we've given you all of our info. We've given you the show info. If you want to find me, I'm on Facebook at Javon Manacho. On Twitter, I am DFW, as in Dallas Fort Worth, DFW Chairman. Check out my responses. Check out my pinned tweet from the one and only current reigning and defending Impact heavyweight champion himself,
Here we go.
Moose. It's Moose
You had your
season,
2
baby.
minutes before the show started. That's enough.
Take us home, DDJ. It's not Gray Pants season. It's Moose season.
It's actually Wabbit season.
Moose season.
Wabbit season.
Moose season.
Wabbit season.
Duck season.
Moose season.
Got him.
I'm surrounded by children. I am surrounded by children.
And on that note, thanks everybody for listening. And this has been episode 9 of our show here. And I'm gonna do a Joey K long-winded take here as I try to get my bleeper queued up on my phone here.
When you have issues getting it up, blue, chew it, and do it. Let's go, DDJ.
Let's do it. So once again, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching, or however you consume the show. Do us a favor, tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell your lover, tell your significant other, tell your mother, tell your father, tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your son, tell your daughter. Just tell someone about this show, because every new viewer would be greatly appreciated. And on that note, this has been Shootin'. Do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Follow the show on Twitter at SHOOTINSHT, and thanks for listening.